What is going on YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm bringing you yet another BT6 locals match. Now this is going to be between myself on the right playing Security D-Brigade, and on the left will be Chris playing the AncientGarurumon list that I posted on the channel yesterday. So getting into it, we're going to see our opponent Digivolve into the Madoki Betamon and then just end up passing the turn. Now it's very interesting because there are a lot of cards that you can play, such as Tamers or Lobos or Gabus, and somehow missing all those, so the hand is looking pretty big. Can't go into Bond, so I'm assuming there's going to be an Ancient coming out, and when we see the promo Lobo coming out, it can confirm that. First check is going to hit the tie and mat, which is a little bit useless in this matchup unless I get a Zwart defeat out, just because all their megas on this other side of the board are going to die at the end of the turn, considering that the Ancient Garus die at the turn and then the Gabumons die at the end of the turn, so I'm not going to get that memory. Now the Gabumon whiffs, but then goes into Strabimon and hits both the Lobomon and the mat, so getting that mat out, going to want to get that going so that they can bottom deck all my stuff and get those checks in. That means I only have really a couple turns to start trying to go for game here until I might just lose. But what we can see right now is that I have 4 Digimon to my opponent's 2 checks, so I have a pretty high chance of being able to just potentially go in for game next turn, unless my opponent has something like a couple Hammer Sparks and Security, or they want to try and go for the Rattle Star. But we're actually just going to see the Magnadramon come out, so now I don't have the game, but I can still swing in. So I'm going to swing, hit another mat, and then hit the Hammer Spark, so a couple Security triggers coming out. Going to swing once again, and I swung in all 4, and I would love to go for Darkdramon here, which I do have in my hand, but unfortunately I only have 2 D-Brigades in trash, which means that the Darkdramon itself would cost me 9, and I was only at 8 memory there, so I wasn't able to go in Darkdramon for the game. So my opponent's going to go ahead, swing in, bottom deck my blocker. I'm hoping that I can hit something right here that will get rid of this Gabumon, so that my opponent doesn't have all the checks. I know that they only have the 3 swings on board, but since there are so many hybrids in the deck, I know that a Kendo or a Lobo is just going to come out, especially because I saw it from the Strabimon pickup earlier. So I really just had to hope something was going to come out of my Security on that first check, either a Ultimate Flare or an Iron Fisted Onslaught. But I'm going to have my opponent go first, and I will go second. We're going to see the Davis grabs the Gabumon over the Lobo. Definitely going to want to get that Gabumon out and try to find Matt so I can get into the Bond. As we saw with the first game, the Bond was very important, because if I wasn't able to come out and start bottom decking my blockers and be able to get those multiple swings, then I would have been able to probably just outpace them and go in. And so we're going to have to try to go for the similar game plan here and hope that my opponent just has a slower matchup here. They are going to promote their Gabumon and play another Gabumon, which actually gives me the option to potentially clear them off with either an Ultimate Flare or an Iron Fisted Onslaught. I will gain 2 extra memory thanks to my Tamer here. And then I am going to go for the Iron Fisted Onslaught, putting my opponent at 4, but I'm not too worried because that does stop the Bond from coming out next turn and makes it so they will have to have a couple more turns of trying to set up to get the Bond. But we see the Strabi come out and no Digivolve on top of the Upa, so no Gabumon coming out. And once again, going to see the Magnadramon come out to recover back up to 5, which is a bit unfortunate because I'm going to have to restart. But the fact that they didn't have a Gabumon there is pretty big, because that means that there's no Bond next turn, so I can just start going in again if I want to and not worry too much about my opponent's offensive pressure here. So I'm just going to start swinging in with the Nanimon, which will go down. It is pretty weak, and then the Commandramon will go in. It's 3k to the Gabumon's 2k, so it does survive, and then I can go ahead and use the Dark Roar to pop the Strabi, which makes it so my opponent will not be able to go into Ancient either, so both their Bond and their Ancient are shut off this turn. They do have the Magnadramon, but there are no yellow rookies, so not going to be able to get any effects off of that. Going to see them end their turn here with a Lobomon, so looking to just cycle there. They have multiple mats and no Gabumon, so the mats are pretty useless. Going to need to be cycling to try to hit a Gabumon. It's very surprising that they are whiffing the Gabumons here, but I am able just to swing in and then get there with the Chumon, and was feeling pretty safe because the Chumon would shut down the Hammer Sparks even if it were to come out anyway. You know, getting into game 3, my opponent is going to have me go first. We are both playing decks that want to get their resources out, so going second is going to be better, but I can start off with what is probably the best starting turn in this game, which is Digivolving the rare Commandramon and then playing the 2-drop Commandramon. Puts them at minimal amount of memory while getting maximum amount of Commandramons out, and then going to swing both in. They are going to die, going to hit the first Commandramon trigger and then get the blocker Commandramon out, which won't matter too much if my opponent goes into Bond, but I am able to just just put them at 1 there. I do hit the Omnimon, which keeps them at 1. I won't gain the memory, which I'm actually kind of excited about because I don't think I would be able to put them at any lower than 2 if that didn't happen, and then they would be able to promote the Gabumon, get the memory with Matt, and then have the memory to go into Bond. But as of now, they're just going to have to go for a Davis and leave their Gabumon out there again open for potentially an Iron Fisted Onslaught or an Ultimate Flare, which is something that I will have to commit because the Gabumon in the mat is just too much of a pressure. I have to slow this down as much as possible. I am going to swing in with the Commandramon. I'm not too worried about having the blockers on the board. I just want to get those checks in, so I'm going to play the Chumon to go to 0 and then Iron Fisted Onslaught, put my opponent to 8. I don't really care how much memory I give them. I've put so much time into this Gabumon list myself that I know doesn't really matter how much memory you have if you're not going to be able to attack. So by putting the Chumon out and having the Commandramon in the back, I will have the opportunity to go in and potentially swing for 2 checks next turn, and then I can potentially go for a Darkramon depending how my trash and how my memory works out. But my opponent's going to play out a few Gabumons and get some cycling going into the Lobomon, just again trying to find the cycle, trying to either get a bond or whatever they need. Not sure what their hand is, but they are going to Kakaida's Breath the Chumon back into my hand, which is very interesting. This does give me a lot of memory to potentially work with, which is perfectly fine for me because I do have heavier cards in my hand like Ultimate Flare and Iron Fisted Onslaught. So I'm just going to go ahead and Digivolve and get the cycle going, and then go in for the Ultimate Flare to clear off that Gabumon. That makes it so if they want to go into Bond, they'll have to go onto this Gabumon, and they'll get 1 less check, won't be able to unsuspend again. They're going to go into the Bond, trash their top security, and then that will bottom deck my blocker, hit a Darkramon, and then hit the Nanimon. So that's going to come out after the battle, which makes it so that my opponent is now potentially losing the game here because if they don't put up a blocker, a memory boost, or get rid of this with a Rattlestar, then I will be able to just swing in with the Nanimon for game. So we're going to have to see what my opponent's going for. They don't instantly play anything, so might have to be searching for something. Going to Hammer Spark up to 3. That way they can go into the Kendo. They can swing in with the Kendo and get a check. The effect won't activate because I am a level 4, but then they can get the Howling Memory Boost, which means that my Nanimon cannot attack, so they are alive for just this turn. I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to win this game. This Bond is going to survive because they don't have any checks, so I'm going to have to Ultimate Flare once again. So I've played multiple giant options out of my hand, wishing that they were in security, but the Ultimate Flare is going to come in and save me there. Going to get rid of the Bond. Now my opponent just has a Kendo, and unless they have 2 hybrids to go on top of this Matt and this Davis, then they aren't going to be able to go for game, but they do go for the Kendo, which is a bit scary here, but that does give me a chance because now that there's 2 Kendos on the board, if they do go in and hit either Ultimate Flare or Iron Fisted Onslaught, I will be safe no matter what. So if you were going to go for this hybrid play, you definitely were going to want to swing with that first Kendo before going into the second Kendo, but they were just looking for the second Lobomon, I'm assuming, because at this point, if they would have had it, they would have played it. No effect off of the Dark Roar there because I don't have any D-Brigades on board. Considering going for the memory boost to go up to 4, not sure what that's going to search them for, and then they're just going to search, look at the top to see if the Strabimon would have mattered, but didn't matter because they wouldn't have had enough memory even if they hit Lobomon. So D-Brigade is going to narrowly take this. That was a very crazy game where the Nanimon coming in at the very end to put on that pressure, but if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe because I'm going to be having all kinds of BT6 content coming to you these next couple weeks. So with that being said, I hope you have a great day, and peace out.